Chipped ham and football. That's what Pittsburgh does. Hope everybody's enjoying this 7-2 start for the Steelers. 3-0 with Russell Wilson. Now we're smacking between an impressive win over the Washington Commanders and a huge matchup for the AFC North lead with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm Brian Batko with you, as always, from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, part of our Post-Gazette podcast network. Thanks for finding the show. And maybe no better person to chop it up with as a guest this week than Vinny Cerrato, former Washington executive, director of player personnel, VP, all that stuff. Now he can be heard on WFAN in Baltimore, station that covers the Ravens. So we'll get his thoughts on the Steelers, what they've done so far, what's to come. Should be a fun discussion. As always, we are brought to you by Pella. No better place to get new windows and doors installed in your home than from Pella, who can help you save on your energy costs year-round. Schedule a free in-home consultation with your local Pella windows and doors to find the right product for your home and budget. Give them a call at 866-593-1560 to discuss your project further. That's 866-593-1560 to get started planning on your new windows and doors installation with Pella Windows and Doors of Pittsburgh. We'll be right back on the other side with Vinny Cerrato. All right, folks, there he is, Vinny Cerrato. I go on his show pretty often throughout the season down in Baltimore, so great to have him on with us, and appreciate you taking the time. Vinny, what's going on, man?
Not too much. I watched the Steeler game yesterday. It's kind of nice having the weekend off after the Thursday night game just to kind of sit back and watch all the games.
Yeah, I figured you would, and that's why I thought it really made sense to have you on this week, given your Washington and Baltimore ties. Let's start with that game Sunday. Were you surprised at all that the Steelers walked into the former FedEx Field, Landover, Maryland, and walked out of there with a win over Jaden Daniels? First time he slipped up at home in his young NFL career.
Yeah, I picked Washington to win, probably because, would have helped the Ravens. But what surprised me somewhat was all the Steeler fans that were there. It was crazy how many Steeler fans were there, waving the yellow towels and stuff. That was shocking to me because, Washington's been playing good, and you figure that their fans would show, but it was definitely Steeler fans. I remember we played the Steelers on a Monday night one time, and it was a lot of Steeler fans at that time too.
Yeah, down in Washington, you mean?
Yep, at FedEx.
Yeah, they did. They took over. It seemed to give them a boost. And you mentioned your Washington days. You got any good Arthur Smith or Danny Smith stories from your time in DC overlapping with them?
Yeah, I was with both. Arthur. Arthur. Well, Arthur was
the quality control or something back then, right?
Well, and he got Joe Gibbs brought him in, because Fred Smith's dad, who owns FedEx.
Mm-hmm.
And FedEx was a big sponsor to Joe's car racing too. And Arthur was great. I mean, you didn't even know Arthur was in the building. He was just super quiet and just kind of absorbed everything. Now, Danny, my kids were young at the time, and they called him Gum Guy. And because he had a big tub of gum on his desk. And they would come in. They were probably 5 and 6 at the time. And Joe Bugle would walk him around in his chair, push him around the hallway in his chair, and they'd always run to Danny's office to get gum. So my kids, and I, whenever I call him, Gum Guy, And I texted him. I texted him yesterday during the game. I said, Danny, you're on TV more than anybody I've seen, man. I said it was a great call. Was a great call on the fake punt, though.
I agree. Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, a lot of people saying that was crazy to do it in that down and distance. So that's why it made it a good call. I mean, they weren't expecting it, and all they had to do was just get that guy to James Pierre probably catches that 8 or 9 out of 10 times, and it just didn't go their way on that one. But I thought that was pretty brilliant, and really could have slammed the door on the Commanders a lot earlier. Instead, things got dicey throughout the rest of that game, and the defense looked a little leaky at times. But, man, Russell Wilson coming through in the clutch yet again, 3-0 as the Steelers starter.
Yeah, the way I see it, he's going to throw that deep ball. He loves to throw that moon ball deep. So, and the Ravens secondary hadn't been good. And Brandon Stevens on the one side has not been good because he can't find the ball deep. So it's going to be interesting to see, because Harbs on Thursday night after the game said that we're going to go in and watch film as a staff, and we got to get this thing figured out. So he talked today. I mean, he's not going to say what changes are because they won't practice till Wednesday. Or no, they are practicing tomorrow. Um, so I anticipate something changing, because, I mean, they're giving up 295 passing yards a game. They're worse by like 30 yards to anybody else, which is, the thing that's funny is they were number one last year, in three different categories. And one was pass defense, and it's the same guys. And now they're the worst.
They changed coordinators. I know that much. I mean, Mike McDonald got his big break to be the head coach in Seattle and turned it over to kind of his apprentice, right? Zach Orr, who's been with the organization. Is that, I guess, maybe some growing pains, a little bit of learning on the job for him in that role?
Well, the thing about it is Anthony Weaver went to Miami as a coordinator, and he was the D-line coach. And Denard Wilson was the secondary coach. And Brandon Stevens was having his best year he ever had. They were all, and Kyle Hamilton was best safety in the league. So they were all playing extremely well. And now Denard is the D coordinator at Tennessee, and they're number one in pass defense in the league. So, yeah, growing pains. But after the first Cincinnati game, they brought in Dean Pease, to help get things straightened out. So there's still too many communication errors right now for the Ravens in the secondary.
We mentioned Arthur Smith, Dean Pease, and he go way back as well. He had him as his DC in Atlanta, so that's going to be another kind of chess match, cat and mouse game with these two guys. I mean, obviously Dean's not the defensive coordinator technically in Baltimore, but he's going to have plenty of insight and intel, I suppose. I mean, you mentioned the pass defense, and the Steelers they don't have Jamar Chase, but George Pickens can do some things as well to
and
exploit
Mike Williams.
a secondary.
Mike Williams is good too.
He's getting up to speed. Calvin Austin's kind of the small spaces jitterbug guy who the Ravens had an eye on in that 2022 draft, and I think they took Jordan Stout instead, was the story there. But what do you think the Steelers will be able to run on the Ravens? Because Najee Harris, he had the 3 consecutive 100-yard games, and yesterday they had success at times, but more so had to go through the air to get it done to beat Washington.
Washington's run defense isn't as good as the Ravens, and Travis Jones is back healthy, and Matabike. I think it's going to be tough, because I'm not that impressed with the Steelers' O-line. They don't really knock people off the ball, and I think that's why, like Warren's averaging 3.9, and Najee's averaging 4.0. They're not getting big chunks of run plays. So I think it's going to be tough, but the team that runs for the most yards is probably going to be the team that wins. I mean, if the Ravens can rush for 150, then they'll probably win the game. And if Steelers rush for over 100, I think they're going to have a good chance to win that game too. The question I got for you is Highsmith, and then the corner went out too, right? 2 starters on defense.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson, their number 2 starting corner. He had a hamstring issue to some extent. We don't know yet on that. Alex Highsmith, it definitely doesn't sound like he's going to play this week. Vinny, he's going to get an MRI. We're recording this Monday evening, probably posted Tuesday, so maybe by the time people are listening to this, we've got some more clarity. But our Jerry Dulac reported that probably going to be at least a couple games that he's going to miss. Now, they do have Nick Herbig, should be good to come back. He was limited in practice the first couple days last week, and then he didn't practice Friday, and they held him out one more game. But they've got him ready to return. The other trade deadline acquisition with Mike Williams, Preston Smith, played 23 snaps yesterday, and I think he's still got some juice at age 30 or 31, whatever he is. So they've still got some bodies to run at Lamar, and man, it is interesting how the Steelers have had his number more often than not in the few times that they've seen him.
Yeah, it's that, but he's got more weapons than he's ever had before, and he's got Derrick Henry at running back. Now the other thing is the corner, when he went out, they kind of picked on the other guy that came in.
They went at James Pierre for sure. He got the pass breakup on the second to last Commanders play, but they might have to have a different plan for corner if Jackson's out for this one.
Yeah, and then Joey Porter. I mean, he's a penalty waiting to happen. He had 3, right?
Yeah, all in the first half. So I guess you know, glass half full. He made some adjustments and cleaned it up the second half. Glass half empty. He's got to he's got to play less handsy.
Now, he's one of the only guys that he never ran a 40 at the combine. He never timed.
Joey Porter Jr. I didn't realize that about him. I
Yeah.
know that. Yeah, I mean I don't know that he's had quite the breakout second season that some people expect. He is a guy who's going to play that position
Yeah.
physically and kind of, I don't want to say dare the officials to call it every time, but yeah, I mean, he was jockeying on the sideline yesterday or Sunday with, I can't remember if it was McLaurin or maybe Noah Brown, and kind of brought that arm up there, and the ref called it. So, yeah, I mean, hey, he can allow their defense to do a lot of different things when he's taking away that top receiver one-on-one. But the Ravens are a little bit interesting because Zay Flowers isn't that big physical guy that Joey Porter can strap up. He's somebody that you're going to have a plan for on the back end.
Yeah, he's quick, and explosive in and out of breaks. And like Bateman's a real good route runner, got really good body control. So that'll be interesting. And then I'm guessing Isaiah Likely will probably be back this week too. So they'll have, two good tight ends, and then Keaton Mitchell's back for them too. So that'll give them some more speed in the backfield. So they'll have another weapon there. I think watching the Steelers earlier, Patrick Queen looks much faster. Like he's playing a lot faster right now. I thought he played well yesterday, made some plays, and he just looks like he's getting much more comfortable.
Yeah, he was all over the field against the Commanders. I mean, I think that was a big reason why they were able to hem up Jaden Daniels for most of the day, and he was shooting through gaps. Seems like he's playing more confident, and yeah, just in time to face his former team. We're going to get more into Steelers Ravens matchup with Vinny Cerrato from WFAN in Baltimore, former Washington executive. A quick message from Goldberg, Persky, and White. If you were diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer, call your local attorneys at Goldberg, Persky, and White. For over 40 years, they've represented thousands of lung cancer and mesothelioma victims. Call 1-800-COMPLEX or visit gpwlaw.com for a free consultation. And yeah, Vinny, it's been fascinating having Patrick Queen over here from Baltimore. I mean, it's probably one of the bigger names to change hands in this rivalry in recent years. Why are the Ravens and Steelers so similar? Or is it just me? I mean, I feel like they were already fishing in the same waters philosophically and with the odd fronts. And now you actually do have a lot of players kind of making their way through the two organizations. Do you get that same vibe that these two teams are kind of like mirror images a little bit?
Yeah, I would say organizationally they are.
Yeah.
Because I mean, both coaches are longest tenured. Neither owner fires people.
Right.
So they're just very stable organizations, and both believe in playing good defense and running the football. So I think that's the common denominator. Plus, Deshaun Elliott's a former Raven too.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't mention Deshaun.
I don't know if do the Ravens have any former Steelers?
Well, I was going to ask you, Deontay Johnson is there now. How are things going with him? I know it's a small sample size so far and not a lot of positive, but do you think he could still fill a role and pay off for them in the long haul here after they basically got him for a bag of chips and a soda from Carolina.
But, he's on his third team. And what I always say is, like when he was at Pittsburgh, was the headache bigger than the production, or was the production bigger than the headache? Because if the headache becomes bigger than the production, you get rid of the headache. Now, he was the leading receiver at Carolina, and they gave him away for nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that there's, some kind of issues in the locker room or whatever. But he caught one ball, and then he had a chance at another one, and he fell down. Would have been a fairly big play for him. I think he had 5 snaps in the Commanders game, but I'm guessing he's going to be all jacked up to play against his former team.
And I think some guys in that locker room are going to be jacked up to play against him. That's going to dominate the chatter. It
sounds like that.
That's going to dominate the chatter a lot this week. Patrick Queen too should be a fun interview when we get to talk to him. I think he usually chats with us on Wednesdays, but he was. I think that was his best game as a Steeler, probably. Sunday against the Commanders, and
he's going to need to have his best game this week, because he's got to bring big boy pants when you tackle 250 pounds, so because Patrick's got great quicks and all that, but he's not the biggest guy in the world.
Yeah, Yeah, Derrick Henry, I mean, not a lot of guys in the league are bringing him down on the first try these days. It looks like he's just found the fountain of youth. I mean, he is fun to watch out there.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure a lot of teams in the league are like, how did we let him go to Baltimore with Lamar? How did we let this happen?
Now, they tried to trade for him at the trade deadline last year.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and Tennessee wouldn't trade for him. Now, the year before, for Roquan, it came down to Pittsburgh and Baltimore to get Roquan too.
Yeah, I mean, he would have looked good in the Steelers defense. There's no doubt about that. Now they've got Queen. And yeah, I mean, with him having to deal with Derrick Henry possibly coming through that hole, Lamar scrambling around, it's going to be a really fun X's and O's, matchup between these two teams as well. And the Steelers always seem to have a good plan for Lamar. TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. I mean, Highsmith won't be playing, but they seem to hit him when he's running the RPO. They disguise the coverage. I mean, who was it a couple years ago? Robert Spillane had a pick against him. He's out in Vegas now. But I just feel like one of these years, Lamar's going to have the Steelers number and the tables are going to turn. Maybe that's this year because from afar, he's playing as well as I've ever seen him.
Yeah, this is the best he's ever played by far. But, as Todd Monken calls him, he calls him the conductor because basically he's in charge of the offense. And I give Lamar credit. I mean, he studies a ton of film now, and the game is really slowed down for him. So it'll be like the Steeler fans are going to see a different Lamar, I think, than they've ever seen. I mean, I see it, and he's throwing the ball much better. He can throw from the pocket, and he doesn't seem to like he wants to take off and run as much. He'll be healthier this week because, the last 2 weeks he's missed some practice time. It hadn't affected him. He's had, well over 100 and some quarterback rating each time. So they can score points, and can the Steelers score points? I mean, they're going to have an opportunity probably to score some points. And, if the Ravens do their normal, the Ravens are averaging over 30. So if they do that, then they would win. But I'm guessing because Pittsburgh, Baltimore, probably be a lower scoring game.
Usually is, and it's usually close. If it comes down to that, Chris Boswell has arguably been the best kicker in the league thus far.
Yep.
What's going on with Justin Tucker? I mean, Father Time's undefeated. Are we there, or is it just the rough patch for him?
I don't, because he had the rough patch with over 50. Then he made the 56-yarder against Cincinnati. And then it seemed like all things were back to normal. And then next game, Harbs gave him another one over 50, drilled it. And then the last couple games, he's been somewhat shaky. I mean, he missed the PAT.
Yeah.
So I don't know, what it is. I guess it's probably like a golfer, always, missing left or whatever. So is it in his swing? I don't know what it is. But yeah, something is, you're not as confident. Like when I was at the Niners, I'd sit up, in the box, and Gary Anderson was our kicker at the time. Like when Gary'd line up to go kick, I'd go get a Coke or something because I knew it was good.
Yeah.
And that's how you felt
right
like
for the
with
Steelers,
that's how you felt like with Tucker. But now, it's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, that was shocking to see him miss that extra point against the Bengals last Thursday night on Thursday Night Football. Man, what a great game that was. And so weird that the Ravens and the Bengals have already played twice. The Steelers and the Ravens haven't played at all. Before I let you go, what are your thoughts on how this division is going to play out down the stretch? Because, I mean, obviously this game on Sunday in Pittsburgh is going to be a pivotal one for these two teams at the top jockeying for position. Who do you think is kings of the North in the end? And I'll just ask you too, do you think the Bengals kind of find a way to make a little bit of a push and displace, the Broncos or somebody to eke into the AFC playoffs?
I mean, they got a chance. They're really good offensively, and they get Higgins back. That'll help too. But their defense is not good. I mean, they're similar to the Ravens in that respect right now.
Right.
But the Ravens got talent on defense. It's just not playing good. That's the thing with the Ravens. I think it'll be. What's funny is I think they play the next two opponents. They play Pittsburgh and then both play the Chargers.
Okay, and the Steelers have Ravens and then Browns on a short week on Thursday Night Football. And normally I would say they're not going to lose to Jameis and the Browns, but they have struggled going to Cleveland. The fans seem to get up for those Browns-Pittsburgh games, especially in primetime.
Oh yeah, it's just an easy drive there. I
Yeah.
mean, close. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Plus, the thing is what you'd like if you're Cleveland is playing the Steelers on a Thursday after a really physical
Yep.
Ravens Steelers game, because no Steeler player, coach, they're not even worried about they're playing. We're playing when Thursday. No, we'll worry about that. We got to worry about this. This is like in Baltimore, it's Steeler week
Right.
this week. So I'm sure same, in Pittsburgh this week. It's going to be it's going to be electrifying. It's going to be pretty cool. And I'm glad they didn't the TV, CBS or whoever
Flex,
wouldn't let it go to Sunday night. Thank God.
Yeah, I'm happy about that as someone who'd be writing with tighter deadlines and having to wake up with the little kids in the morning. So, all right. Well, hey, Vinny, anything else you wanted to add before I let you get out of here and enjoy the rest of your night? And I know you'll be crunching the tape the rest of this week, I'm sure.
Yeah, I do. The All 22 comes out on Tuesday mornings, so I'll watch. Like in the morning, I go in early and I watch the replay of the Ravens game, and then Wednesday I do the Steelers tape, and then I get my keys and everything, and then I get a good feel for what the game is. But I get a pretty good feel. I mean, if the Ravens can stop the deep ball, and if they can because it seems like that old Russell likes to hold on to the ball a little bit. And I think with Matabike and Travis Jones, I think they're going to be able to get pressure up inside.
How'd they been off the edge? Because Broderick Jones, he played well in this most recent game at right tackle, but he's been a bit of a liability for the Steelers at times.
Yeah, and Van Noy coming from the outside, he's not. I mean, he's real crafty. The older guys, they know how to beat you. Because they beat you with their brains. And they know every counter in the books. So that'll be interesting, and always going to will bring speed on the outside. Yeah. But Matabike had 3 sacks last week, and he's kind of cranking things up pretty good. So the guards and center, they're going to have their hands full, I believe.
Two rookies on the interior for the Steelers, center Zach Frazier and right guard Mason McCormick. So that could be a matchup to watch.
Travis Jones is a beast. I mean, he's probably improved as much as anybody this year. Because he's about 320, 325, and he's got explosiveness, and he can push the pocket. But Matabike's got spin moves and all those things, too. And
who's going to block TJ Watt? Who's going to block TJ Watt at right tackle for the Ravens?
There'll be 2 of them. I'm guessing, the rookie Roger Rosengard, but he has trouble with bull rush all the time. So he won't be able to handle him by himself. So, there'll be a tight end there, or whether – Justice Hill, the running back, he's a really good chipper and picking up blitzes. And I would imagine that Queen will be blitzing a lot, because I've always liked Queen as a blitzer.
Yeah, he had some of that in his wheelhouse on Sunday as well. And TJ was quiet against the Commanders, and sometimes that can be like, okay, maybe he's in a little bit of a slump, but other times it's like a geyser waiting to go off. So we'll see what that does for the Ravens and the Steelers. Appreciate you taking some time for me, Vinny. Maybe I'll talk to you this week on the show with you and Bob. For Vinny Cerrato, former NFL exec and now Ravens analyst, I'm Brian Batko. Appreciate you guys finding us here on the Chip Tammon Football Show from the Post-Gazette. We'll have plenty more coverage for you the rest of the week. Thanks again, Vinny. See you, man.
Yep. All righty, Brian.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.